That's right. During ASEAN, the voice of sharing and discovery. We tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So, how are you guys today? I hope everyone's doing well. It's a beautiful Monday morning. Some of you might be heading to class. Some of you might be going to work, caught in a jam. But don't worry, I'm here to entertain you with some fresh ASEAN news this morning. The first news today is reported by The Star. And of course, it's about the Thomas Cup, where Japan beats Malaysia 3-2 to win the Thomas Cup on Sunday. The expectations of a whole nation, starved of Thomas Cup success, proved too much to bear for the Malaysian badminton team as they went down fighting 3-2 to Japan in the final at the Siri Fort Indoor Stadium here on Sunday. The Malaysian team, making their first appearance in the final since Guangzhou in 2002, threw everything at first-time finalist Japan, but their failure to clinch the tie before the deciding third singles match meant that the long wait to bring back the coveted Thomas Cup trophy continues. I tried my best. I lost 2 matches and I did not want to lose this one. I'm sorry that I could not win this for Malaysia, said a downcast Darren. World number 1 Ling Chongwei had given Malaysia a dream start, beating Kenichi Tago 21-12, 21-16, stretching his excellent record against the Japanese to 16-1. But Tan Boon Hyung, Hoon Tien Hao failed to clinch the crucial first doubles point against Kenichi Hayakawa and Hiroyuki Endo. So as we all know, Malaysia have not won the cup since current singles head coach Rashid Siddiq led the 1992 squad into a famous 3-2 win over Indonesia. So, of course, there's always next time. We can always try harder. Let's not let our spirits down. We actually put up a really good fight against Japan last night, and the entire country was united. We were all together supporting our fellow Malaysians. So, I'm pretty sure we'll come back stronger next time. The following news is about pandas. Moving on to pandas. Najib visit giant pandas in Zoo Negara. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak visited the giant pair panda Fu Hua and Feng Yi at Zoo Negara here on Sunday. Najib, who tweeted and posted on his Facebook page a picture of his visit, said giant pandas were considered to be symbols of peace in Chinese culture and were highly revered. So speaking of pandas, later we'll have a discussion about panda diplomacy at 9 o'clock, so don't forget to listen to that one. The 2 Chinese giant pandas are here for 10 years to mark the 40th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Malaysia and China on May 31st. Loaned through the Malaysia-China Giant Panda International Conservation Agreement Program, the pandas will be quarantined for about 1 month in a special place in Zoo Negara to enable them to adjust to the new environment. So, while we're at this, we also have to start training people to become experts on taking care and maintaining the pandas. So I guess this create job opportunities in a way, but I don't know if it's quite worth it because the government has spent at least 100 million trying to bring the panda over, the payment to China, paying for the accommodation, I would say, for the panda because they need a special environment to live in. And I think there are a lot more pressing issues in the country that needs to be addressed, and bringing the panda in could be a good move for international relations, for the diplomatic ties between Malaysia and China. But such a large amount of money spent on pandas may not exactly be a wise move because we still have poverty in the country. We still have people sleeping on the streets. So, in my opinion, I don't think the panda should be the priority right now. Moving on to Bukit Galugor in Penang, by-election, Ram Karpal Singh wins Bukit Galugor by-elections. DAP's Ram Karpal Singh is the new Bukit Galugor MP. He polled almost 41,000 votes to beat his nearest opponent, Party China Malaysia Vice President Dato' Huan Cheng Guan, by a whopping majority of 37,659 votes in a four-cornered fight. He was accompanied by family members, DAP Secretary General and Penang Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng, past Deputy President Muhammad Sabu, past National Unity Committee Chairman Dr. Muhajid, and Penang DAP Chairman Chow Kun Yao. After the celebration, a teary-eyed Ram Karpal Singh said the victory was dedicated to his father. The most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, in this election is my father, which is why I dedicate this entirely to him. It's also reported that these elections had actually the lowest number of voters in Malaysia ever, and it could be because of the lack of a BN candidate, where a lot of people probably didn't want to go down and vote because they maybe wanted someone from BN to represent them, but there was no BN candidate. But most people were reportedly happy with the results. Ram Karpal is expected to carry on his father's fight. As we all know, Karpal Singh was a legend in Penang, and he fought for the people, and he stood up for us, and he was the fearless tiger of Jelutong, and now it's up to Ram Karpal to carry on the legacy. So it's good that he won, and let's see what he can bring to Penang. He also said, I knew throughout the campaign that he was always with me. He was certainly part of this victory, he told reporters inside the hall. Moving on to Thailand now. Anti-coup protesters defy junta with Bangkok march. Public anger at the Thai military coup grew Sunday as more than 1,000 protesters shouting "Get out" marched across the capital, Bangkok, in defiance of an army warning against protest. Demonstrators began marching in the Chilom district and made their way across the city to the Victory Monument cheered by onlookers, and AFP reporter at the scene said, after a tense standoff with armed soldiers in the city's retail heart. It was the largest expression of dissent since the army seized power on Thursday after months of political turmoil. There was no sign of soldiers or police on the streets during the march on Sunday, which went ahead despite a junta statement calling on people not to protest and a martial law on gatherings of more than 5 people. So in case you guys didn't know, the military actually posed a curfew on Thailand from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. and there can be no gathering of more than 5 people for political reasons at all, or they will be arrested. So I think the developments is probably a signal to the army. They're probably digging deep into the soil, trying to strengthen their position, although it's supposed to be a temporary thing. And they could probably get too comfortable being in power, and they might be unwilling to actually hand over the power to a proper civilian government in the near future, in case that happens. The following news is about U.S. suspending $3.5 million in military aid to Thailand. The United States on Friday suspended $3.5 million in military assistance for Thailand, about 1/3 of its aid to the ally, and urged Americans to reconsider travel plans after the army seized power. State Department spokeswoman Marie Harf said Washington was also reviewing the rest of U.S. aid to Thailand, which totaled to almost $10 million in 2013, to look for further cuts. The United States has contacted junta leaders to deliver the message. We urge the immediate restoration of civilian rule, a return to democracy, and obviously respect for human rights during this period of uncertainty, Harf said. Under the domestic law, the United States is obligated to suspend assistance to foreign militaries that overthrow elected governments. Secretary of State John Kerry has strongly condemned Thursday's coup, condemning the military force, saying that there was no justification whatsoever and the move would have negative implications for relations between the two countries. So while I do agree with John Kerry that the military taking over could have negative implications not only for the ties between the two countries, but also have a very negative impact in Thailand itself, because the people are not happy and they've always wanted a democratic government, and they've been trying so hard to have all these elections. They kept rescheduling, but they were still kind of heading in that direction. And now that the military has taken over, it seems like the hope is gone. But it's also interesting that the United States is actually rejecting military control, because they usually resort to their military defense whenever needed. And we also know that Thailand is the oldest U.S. ally in Asia and provided critical support in the Vietnam and Korean wars. So U.S. actually does have a big say in this because of their relationship that dates back to a long time ago. And I do hope that reaching out to the junta leaders will have an impact. They will hear the United States out and probably return to a democratic state pretty soon. And let's move on to Vietnam from there. Anti-China riots in Vietnam scare Taiwan. In the territorial dispute between Vietnam and China, the Taiwanese are the collateral damage, since Vietnamese protest against a Chinese oil rig in disputed waters turned ugly on May 13. Officials in Hanoi have been trying to reassure foreign factory owners that the country is still a safe place to invest. But the Taiwanese may need more than kind words and pledges. Vietnamese protesters set fire to the 16 Taiwan-owned factories, possibly because of their Chinese names, and at least 500 Taiwanese-owned plants were damaged, according to a preliminary estimate by the Council of Taiwanese Chambers of Commerce in Vietnam. The attacks came even though for years the Taiwanese government has encouraged businesses to set up shops in Vietnam rather than China. Vietnam was also part of Taiwan's Go South strategy of securing markets in Southeast Asia and lessening its dependence on the mainland. Thailand is one of the largest sources of foreign direct investment in Vietnam, having poured in 28 billion over the past 2 decades. So the government has the Vietnamese government has released a very good document addressing some of the points that Taiwan has asked for. But if the central government doesn't follow through, the companies from Taiwan will have to relocate. And this could have a very, very bad impact on the Vietnam economy, because Taiwan has been a huge part of it. They've made billions of dollars worth of investments. So Vietnam should really work to preserve its relationship with Taiwan. So next we move on to Philippines. Philippines and Indonesia sign model maritime border. Indonesia and Philippines on Friday signed a maritime border accord, having it as a model for peacefully settling increasingly tense territorial disputes in the region. Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono said the agreement, the results of 20 years of negotiations, showed that the escalating rows in the South China Sea could be resolved without violence. Aquino said the new agreement between Indonesia and Philippines served as solid proof that our steadfast commitment to uphold the rule of law and pursue the peaceful and equitable settlement of maritime concerns. This is indeed a good model, a good example that any disputes, including maritime border tension can be resolved peacefully, not with the use of military, which might endanger stability and peace in our region. So we know that China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Brunei, Malaysia, and Taiwan are all having conflicting claims to parts of the South China Sea. So this is probably a good way to settle that problem by coming up with a maritime border accord that the countries can follow in case a conflict comes up. Moving on to security tight in Urumqi after market attack. So this is not an ASEAN news, but it is a breaking news that is really hot right now. Security tight in Urumqi after market attack. Security was tight in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang, 2 days after the volatile Muslim Uyghur homeland suffered its bloodiest attack in years, leaving 43 people dead, including 4 assailants. Armed paramilitary police were on patrol at many locations across the city after attackers in 2 vehicles plowed into shoppers and traders and threw explosives at a street market on Thursday. Patrols of police marched up and down the road with riot shields. The area would have previously seen scores of traders selling groceries and fruits on wooden trailers and from cardboard boxes. However, the street market has been closed since Thursday's bloody attack, and traffic was not allowed through yesterday. The men took part in quote, terrorist attack on Thursday that killed 39 innocent people and injured 94, Xinhua said, making clear that the suspects were not included in the death toll. The critics of China's policies in Xinjiang said that the tensions in the region are driven by cultural repression, intrusive security measures, and immigration by majority Han Chinese, which have led to decades of discrimination and economic inequality. So a little bit of history here I'll give you about the Muslim Uyghurs. They are actually Muslims who regard themselves as culturally and ethnically closer to the Central Asian nations. So the region's economy has for centuries revolved around agriculture and trade, with towns such as Kashgar thriving along the famous Silk Road. In the early part of the 20th century, though, the Uyghurs briefly declared independence. So they were actually but they pretty much were their own entity and were also given independence. But the region was brought under the complete control of Communist China in 1949. And Xinjiang is also officially designated an autonomous region within China, like Tibet to its south. So this is a very sad news, an attack on the Muslims in Xinjiang, in Urumqi, with all these people injured. And we do hope that the Chinese government will do something about it, probably increase the security measures. So I think that's all the time that we have for today for our ASEAN news. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And we'll be back shortly for our Blast from the Grassroots session at about 8:35. So stay tuned.